So you wake up, you're in agony, and there's all these cuts and bruises all over your body, and you can feel that there's like these big fat drops of rain that are like trickling through the trees down and occasionally like landing on your head. You can hear kind of in the distance this like rhythmic groaning going on. I'd like each of you to roll D3, so roll D6 and tell me what the half is.
3.
Okay.
1.
Yep.
I rolled a 1.
Okay. So, so my lord, you try to open your eyes, but you struggle to do so. They're like swollen, as is your nose. You can remember now in like the last moments, this great warrior with these golden plates on his chain. He was fighting Helga, a friend of yours, in the shield wall. And as you like tried to help her before he plunged the blade into her heart, he like whirled around and smashed the pommel of his sword right between your eyes. And it's like resulted in a broken nose. You've got -5 to perception checks made to see and disadvantage on range attacks. Asgeir, you kind of feel this like thudding agony and this like dull sort of numb agony. There's a broken javelin embedded in your thigh. And you can remember now that you were facing off against this man with a red shield, and he had these piercing blue eyes and a tattoo across half of his face. And there was this shout that came, and he moved to the side at the last second. A javelin smashed into your leg, and as you fell to the ground, the rim of his shield smacked you in the head, and you went black. Your movement speed is reduced by 10, and when you take the dash action, you have to make a con save or fall over. And I'm going to give you the other one because it's more interesting. Because there was 3 options. You can feel this dull ache, and as you look, there's the best part of an arrow with white fletching sticking out of your right side. It's penetrated deep into your skin, and when you feel around, you can realize it's actually gone all the way through. And as you kind of try to sit up, the barb is kind of stuck in the loamy soil for a second. It's pretty painful to move, and due to this, you'll have a -1 to your armor class. So these are the injuries.
Speaking of armor.
Yes.
Speaking of armor, do we have anything?
No, you have been stripped. Not naked, but all of your wealth. Like looking around, you'll see that any sort of like torque or ring, anything like that, is gone. Asgeir, you had like a silver tooth replacing one of the rotten ones in your mouth that has been smashed out and pulled out of your mouth. So now there's like a hole there. Any piece of wealth that you had anywhere is gone, and that goes as well for your armor. You're left with like the clothes that you had on you under your armor, and that seems to be it.
I think while the world spins around Thorna, she like begins to orientate herself, and these memories like jaggedly come trickling back to her. She'll kind of like roll her eyes and cock her head back as she's in the soil, and open her mouth and just try and catch some of the rain that falls, and she's stunned to inaction just at the present moment.
Yeah, it's cold and refreshing, and when it falls on the ruin of your face, the kind of swollen wound, it's kind of like nice and cooling.
She thinks to herself that she couldn't have got uglier, but she was a fool, and like it causes like a painful like smile across her lips, which quickly recedes as a bit like a bout of dizziness or nausea comes. She'll like savor the water wetting her lips, and after a time turn her head slowly, not for caution, she's too dumb for that, but just from the sheer pain. She looks about with like one eye like peering through the other, just like puffy and swollen, looking for any other signs of movement now that she realizes where she is and what's happened, and no like topless Valkyrie is going to come and serve her mead.
Yeah, you can see that like all around there are bodies just left where they fell, and you can see that many of them have like broken bones or have like arrows and javelins sticking out of them. But you'll see that there's not a single glint of metal anywhere. Like everything has been taken. and looted. A couple of the bodies have been like piled together in various piles around this area, and yeah, I guess you would see like just a sea of dead people. And looking around, you would realize that they're mostly your people.
She'll slither out of the muddy womb down past a corpse. Since her own armor has been taken, she's like essentially nude or close to it. So she'd look for a cloak or trousers, anything like that that wouldn't have been prized by the victors, that she can like cover herself with, not for modesty, but because the adrenaline's all gone away now, and so she's just like racked, and she doesn't want to shiver herself to death.
Yeah, sure. So like a couple of the bodies nearby would have like tunics and stuff like that, although most of them are wet. It has been raining clearly for some time, but you can like kind of like peel those off the dead bodies, which are feel like they're resisting when you're like pulling the clothes. They're so heavy and you're so tired, you're able to like pull them off and put them on yourself. But you can see and hear, not far away from you, maybe 40 or so feet away, Eula, who's a woman who stood with you in the shield wall as well. She used to make this like really lovely tea on cold nights with berries in it. When you would like camp here in the woods, trying to avoid the Jarl's men. And she's on the ground in like a near unconscious state, and lying on top of her is a man that you don't recognize, and that's where you heard this grunting coming from.
She'll level a baleful glaze in her like hobo suit covered in mud and gore. And like her hands and like broken fingernails will dig into the mud in anger, equal parts revulsion, reaching instinctively for weapons that are no longer there, of course. So that becomes her next priority. But her passive perception is at -5 minus -1. So yeah, 4 at the moment.
Oh God, Nico.
Yeah, I think you can barely kind of make out that shape. You can kind of hear it more than see it. And you're looking around, you can see that there are like arrows and stuff in some of the people that haven't been recovered, and like the ends of javelins and stuff. Although most of them have been broken, so that they aren't really usable again.
Except
but you'd be able to
as improvised weapons.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll pull out 2 arrows from like a larger man I used to quarrel with, who I fought alongside. Is now like cold, grey, and pallid beneath me, but I'll like try and silently pull the arrows out. The first one comes easy. The second one's like kind of caught on the rib cage, so I kind of have to work at it for a moment before I can prize the arrow free, and I'll grip them like one in each hand. And I guess trying and thinking that she's moving stealthily through the gore-stained muck actually probably more looks like a drunk person on their way home. As she stumbles towards this grunting figure, she tries to swallow, but like her mouth is swollen and her throat, despite the rain, is still caked, and it's painful, and it kind of makes her wince as she like nearly stumbles sidelong, but keeps heading loosely towards this figure as it comes into her vision.
What about the rest of you?
Asgir is just kind of laying in the mud, just surrounded by other people who are either more fortunate or less fortunate than him to be dead. He's not quite sure which yet. And he tries to pull himself to his feet, one of his legs immediately giving out, falling out from under him, under this point of the javelin end that's still embedded inside of it. His tongue instinctively winding between the gap in his teeth where that silver tooth used to be, kind of feeling the pain of where it had been smashed out forcibly by whoever happened to take it. Just quickly scan around looking for any sign of life other than him. Just trying to catch a glance of where he's at.
Yeah, you would see Thorn kind of like blearily standing and like beginning. You can see that she has like the ends of 2 arrows in her hands, and she's like very like hunched over, trying not to fall, moving towards what you can now see as well as Eula and some enemy man.
Asgir would hear intake of breath about 30 feet to his right. If he looks over, he sees the pale, kind of silver white hair of Ira just streaked with blood, and she's just snapped off the quarrel of the arrow that's in her stomach so that it doesn't stick out any farther. And she's sitting up. She makes eye contact with him.
The man on top of Eula can hear like the sort of shuffle, the desperate attempt of like the dead to rise. He hears like Asgeir try to stand but like fall back down again. He like looks up from his hideous deed, and he like spits onto the ground. Fuck's sake. And he like stands and puts his cock away and like draws an axe from a sling at his side. Oh, you're supposed to be dead. And he like puts one finger on one nostril and just like forcibly expels a bunch of snot from the other, and begins walking
Sorry
towards
about that.
you.
Am I back?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, the internet cut there for a second, so I missed the last little bit there, but
It's all good. So basically, the guy on top of Eula realized that there was noise going on. He stood up and is now moving casually towards Thorn.
She gives a deceptive wince and goes as if to like rush towards him, but then collapses on all fours. Can I roll a deception, my lord?
Of course.
The neg one. It's a 7, so I guess he sees the clumsy ruse as I'm trying to make myself look weaker than I am. But I actually
He's like chuckling to himself, and he's like got the axe down low at his right hand side. Didn't pick up his shield or anything. He's just like slowly moving towards. Do you think I'm fucking stupid?
I think you're fucking dead.
No, that's you.
Ira, hearing this exchange, pulls up to her knees as quickly as the wound allows, and seeing this man move towards Thorn, she grabs 2 handfuls of mud and begins crawling that direction while he's occupied.
Yeah.
Roll stealth if I could.
It's absolutely agonizing because you've got this arrow pierced through you, and so as you're like pulling yourself, there's just like this terrible agony as you're doing so.
Seeing that a ruse has failed.
For me, by the way.
It was a what?
That was a 10 for my stealth to try and remain hidden. I'm assuming his passive is more than.
Yeah, I think you're trying to do like a crafty army crawl, but actually you're just like flinging it at a hand and slapping it into the mud and pulling yourself forward. And so it's not nearly as quiet as you think it is.
Seeing the man Vile before her kind of just glance his periphery, noticing the movement of Ira, which I don't, but I like see him before me, so I'm going to choose this time to attack.
All right, roll me initiative.
That's an ability check, right? So disadvantage on that. Oh, a crit initiative would have been real handy here. Well, I'll have to have it. What's that? 11.
So, Ira, you're first.
Ira will, seeing Thorn tense and recognizing that preparation for movement, Ira will pull to her feet, move forward as quickly as she can allow, and hurl mud straight at this guy's face, hoping to blind him. Just...
Okay. Make me an attack roll, please. Range attack.
13.
Okay, so you pick up this handful of mud and you're like the kind of edge of that splatter hits him in the face, although it doesn't seem to stop him. He looks in your direction, and there's this cruel smile comes over his face. You are next.
2 handfuls. Can I try the second handful with a bonus action?
Like an offhand weapon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope, that's worse.
Yeah. The first one just barely misses him. The next one falls short, and he points his axe in your direction. He's gonna move quickly over to you as you're prone on the ground. He's gonna lift his axe up and try and cave in your skull. Yeah, I think he will. Sorry, what's your armor class? 13. Okay, so it's actually a 12. He's just barely. So the axe thuds, and you feel this whip as it hits into the hair that's dragging behind you.
So Lloyd,
yeah,
my injury was a -1 to AC.
Oh shit! Okay. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Better hope I roll low on this d6.
Fuck me.
It's gonna be 4 damage.
I'm unconscious.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah, so he walks over to you and he's looking at Thorn as he does so, and he's he throws his hands wide for a second, steps on your back, and just thunk, the axe comes down. And he looks to the rest of you. Thorn.
She'll just hiss through corny, bloody teeth for Eula to do something, and she rushes through the slick gore towards York. She doesn't want him to call out if she does somehow manage to harm him to anyone else, so her strikes are aimed at his throat and mouth with these crusty arrows.
Okay.
Here goes nothing. It's going to be a 13 and a 15.
15 hits.
D4. 4 piercing damage.
Better than nothing. The arrow gets him in the back of the neck. It's just the pointy bit. I don't know what you call that bit of an arrow. Just into the back of the neck. And he lets out and he's looking down at Ira, but he then puts his left hand on the wound and grunts in pain. Is that it for you? You have another one. Oh yeah, you missed it.
Yeah, I missed it first, so that's it for me. I got no second wind or anything, so I just stand there holding it, trying to leverage it further in, but my strength is fled too much, and I can't silence him or harm him greatly.
Asgeir.
All right, so given my bit of a movement impediment right now, am I able to reach him? I didn't catch how far this was happening from me when I dropped.
He moved over to Ira, and she was. So you'd be able to walk there without running.
Yeah. So as he's kind of swung this axe down at Ira and kind of come in stabbing at him, just Asgeir would look around for something, anything to grab as a weapon, and then kind of in the flurry of the moment, not seeing anything, what's left of the shaft of the javelin in his leg, with a groan and a grunt, just tear it out of his leg. Run is a loose way of saying it, but he would try to do over towards this man. the point of the javelin that was in his leg of this guy's neck.
All right, go for it.
Ooh, that is a 24.
Shit. Nice. Okay, so you can give me a D4 for improvised weapon. And then I need you to roll me a D6. Sorry, a D4 and then D6.
All right, so the D4 for damage is a 2 on the die, which with my strength mod would be a 6 damage total
Nice.
on the D6.
Wait, say that again?
That's a 5 on the D6.
Okay, I need a D4 as well, please.
In addition to the damage roll?
Yeah, so I need the damage roll, which I got, but then I also need a D4 and a
Okay.
D6.
Okay, 2 on the D4.
Okay. That is chest. And a D6 was a 5, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you get this like tip of the javelin. It's a fairly long kind of leaf-shaped blade, and you like limp up towards this guy, and you like try to go for the neck, but he like ducks down at the last second because Soren has hit him there also. But as he does so, you like rake the tip of this javelin across his stomach, which is unprotected. And there's this hideous, almost like tearing sound, and his entrails just like fall out onto the ground. There's like all this steam rising from the wound, and he's like looking down at it and looking at you just like in utter horror. There's an awful stench. He is going to have to try and make an impossible save. He does not. So he looks down and he just like starts babbling to himself like, and he like he falls to his knees and his guts are out on the floor in front of him. Ira, make a death save.
Do I have disadvantage on death saves? Oh, doesn't matter. I failed that one.
Okay. Jorg is in agony, pure agony. I'm going to see if he gets to make a roll or anything. No, he just spends his turns screaming in agony as like his guts are hanging out of him. He's like looking down, crying, unable to understand what's going on. He's like grabbing a handful and trying to push them back into his stomach and like close the tear, but it's no good. Thorn.
He's going to rush over and fumble with his own guts and try and stuff them down his mouth to silence the screams. And while she's hefting her weight and his like belly heels back down his throat, she's looking across at you like, "Get up, grab the shield. We must be quick." So I'll make an athletics check, I guess, to grapple him with his own guts in the mouth.
Yeah, okay.
That's definitely like an Iskloft question.
Yeah.
That was another crit, but because I have disadvantage, it will be a 12.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah. So he's just like looking in horror, and he's like got if you imagine like the left side of the spillage, like he's putting that back into his stomach, and he's like so focused on that he doesn't see you like grab a handful and just like shove them into his mouth, and he's like, and you like hold him down. He falls backwards, and you like hold him down. And there's a couple of seconds pass before he dies from shock. He just like twitching for a little bit, although you see that the hand holding the axe never lets go. And then there's silence. Eula hasn't moved.
Once the spasms stop, I'll reach up and grab his axe and stand up and seeing Asgeir, but then like our two like other survivors, I'll just plant the axe back down like you would into like a stump or something into this guy's crotch, and then gesture for Asgeir to take it while I turn, and I'll go to Ira, I guess. She'd be closer the way I reckon it. And I'm going to like fall down to my knees next to her and fumble with her, And like I'm trying to recall what the healer or like the midwife or like wise woman or cunning woman has said in the village, but like all like the anecdotes, all of the statements, proverbs she's made, it's all lost on Thorn, and she can't really kind of remember anything helpful. But she's going to try to save Ira, and with disadvantage, it will be a 4.
Yeah, so you can see like that there's you're looking, and it looks like the axe didn't go into the head itself. It just like slashed along the right side of the head and down like into the cheek. It's like pretty deep. It's bleeding heavily. But you don't know how to fix that. You don't know how to wake her up, and so you're just kind of like pinching that wound back together, but it's not helping.
For my interaction, I'm going to rip off the hobo shirt that I acquired earlier and like wrap it around Ira from like just above her nostrils up over her forehead, and I'll bind it pretty tight, probably tighter than you're meant to, given my like frantic nature at the moment. I'll heft her up like a sack of corn over my shoulder, and then look to see what's happening with Asgir and Eula.
The axe planted down into this person would just kind of give a grim nod as he watches Thorn's attempts to get Ira in any sort of good condition. And reaching for the axe, he'll bend down to this guy that we've just murdered, off a strip of his shirt, would tie it around his leg where the javelin point in his hand used to be, just trying to not even heal it, but just keep it from getting in the way as much as he can. And just kind of hefting the axe over his shoulder and having the cloth tied around the wound. Look over to this other companion that we have that hasn't moved yet, and just try to kneel down and see if they're even alive.
Yeah, Eula, like lying by a tree, you don't think is living anymore. You can see that she was badly wounded, and even when like she was moaning softly, but you think that now she is dead. But you do hear like footsteps approaching, and there's like this whistle, like a "Hey, York, you finished?"
Asgir would turn back to Thorn and just kind of give a grim shake of his head. Looks over towards Eula, and then hearing the whistle, would immediately just try to press himself back up against the tree. And if this guy is going to try to ambush him if he can.
Sure.
Yeah, seeing Asgir do this, I'm going to drop Ira and run over to move as quietly as I can towards Yorg's corpse, who I know now to be Yorg, and grab him by the chest armor and haul him over on top of me so that it looks like I'm Eula if this guy should approach to aid Asgir, if I'm catching his meaning correctly.
Nice, yeah. So eventually this guy like walks around into this like clearing where much of the battle had taken place. You can see he's like like retying his trousers, and he's like scratching the back of his head. York, fuck's sake! And he like passes just in front of you, Asgir.
And the moment he passes around this tree, we're just immediately from behind, just trying to bury this axe that he's now just picked up right into the back of this guy's skull.
Yep, you can make an attack with advantage.
With advantage, that's a 14.
Okay, just hits him.
Whew. And what axe am I holding right now, just for statistical reasons?
It's a hand axe. So 1d6.
Okay. Ooh, yeah, that's 9 damage.
Nice. So this guy's like walking, he's like scratching the back of his head, and you just like fuck. The axe slams into his hand, which is scratching the back of his head, and you see like 2 of the fingers just like fly off in different directions. He lets out this hideous like it's like terrible scream, and there's like blood spraying as he like rounds like a big spray of blood sprays across you, Asgir, and he's just like reaching for a weapon on him, but his like hand is broken, and Ruin. So he takes his left hand and he's like looking, but let's roll initiative.
Should I make a death save or something?
We'll do that on your turn.
Okay.
We'll just put you up 1, Ira, since you're currently unconscious. Okay, so this guy goes first. He's like reaching around for a weapon. You can see that like his ruined right hand is no good, and so he like reaches across himself and pulls like a sea axe, like a little short, like a long dagger, short sword type thing. And he's just gonna like clumsily with his left hand try and drive it into you and into the tree behind you. Let's see if he can manage it. That looks like he's managing it. So 16. Is that going to hit you?
Easily, yes.
Okay, so it's going to be 4 points of damage.
Yeah, that's down.
Fuck. All right, so he takes this little say axe and he like thrusts it into the meat of your thigh where the wound was from the javelin, and like the agony is too much and you pass out from the pain. He like pulls it out and he like rounds and he's like just looking at his fingers and he goes, fuck, ah! Thorn.
Is the axe that Asgeir wielded still in this guy?
No, it's not in him. I think Asgeir would have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to roll from underneath the corpse of Jörg, like spring up from prone, move towards the guy, and with my interaction, pick up the axe and going to try and drive it into the side of his neck, like a butcher. Please, dice gods, be kind. And so he's like screaming with like a ruined hand and his weapon in the other, and he brings it up instinctively to block, and it just shears the hand axe in half, and the head uselessly falls into the muck at my feet as I roll a crit fail.
Fuck.
I do have 2 attacks though, so I'm going to grab him by his ears and try and bite his throat out.
Holy shit.
Oh man, what? And he brings up an elbow and knocks out my front 2 middle teeth on the top to roll a second crit fail. What?
The gods.
New dice, man. New dice.
Yeah,
no, that was the special black dread dice. They failed me.
You're stumbling back from that. Ira, what are you doing? Trying not to die.
Ira's making a death saving throw. Oh, wait. It's Iskloft, isn't it? It's a DC 15, isn't it?
I'm going to say for this game, it's going to be a DC 10, because otherwise nothing will happen.
Oh, okay, I passed then.
Okay, good. So then back to Torsten. So he is like screaming so loudly, the blood from his fingers pouring all over the place. You can see he's already looking like a bit pale. And he's like holding the Sayax in his hand, and he's going to try and finish you off, Thorn. He's going to roll with disadvantage though, because he is close to death. So he like tries to step forward, but you see like his step falter a little bit, and he like misses you by a fraction. Like cuts a little bit into, like he almost shaves off like a couple of layers of skin from your upper arm, but it's not a major wound. And he like thumps into the ground, and he puts his hand, his ruined hand, like a puddle, and then like there's you quickly see that it turns red. He like pulls it out, and he's barely handling this loss of blood. Ask your death save. You got a 16, is that right? Yeah. So 1 pass, 1 fail. Thorn.
She's going to drop the useless haft of the hand axe, and while this guy's kind of half doubled over, she's going half doubled over. It doesn't make sense, but anyway, she's like a monkey. She'll jump onto his back and put her arms around his throat. She's not going to squeeze though. First, with her like bare bloody feet, she's going to kick him with her right heel straight into his balls, so that he has that intake of, and then that's when she's going to like put the choker hold on him. So I'm going to do a shitty athletics check with disadvantage.
Inspiration, Lord.
Stop screaming. Okay, I'll use it immediately to just roll the black dice. Crit. Natural 20.
Yes.
Right, so it's exactly as you say. You like smash the heel of your foot into his crotch, and then you begin squeezing. It doesn't take long for him to pass out. Are you going to keep him there till he dies?
Yeah, I'd ride him down like a wave into the mud and try and like smother his face into it to muffle any sound and make quick his passing, even though like deep down she wants to make him suffer. Now that Eula's dead, the chances of saving Ira are like even more impossible, so she has no time for like her vicious tendency. It's just like try and crush the guy into the mud and wait till he stops. And then she'll like clamber off him and probably roll onto her back like and realize now that she's like bitten her cheeks and lip in her like savagery, and like her mouth is just like a sea of blood.
Yeah, so there's like a quiet comes over the place again, although you can hear off in the distance the bark of a hound.
That like shoots adrenaline like spiraling through her body again, and her fingers clenched. She like with her last bout of strength get up onto her knees, look over to whichever of the two is closest. I imagine Aesgear, because they were engaged with the same foe. So she's going to clamber over to him. And I mean, like if there's a hound and men in the distance, I'm not going to try and do battlefield surgery in the mud on him here. So I'm just going to grab him. I'm going to grab Ira. And then I drop them, and I realize I'm just not going to get away from a hound and men. So I like go as far away from like the corpse field as I can with these two. I like drag them, try and hide them in bushes or the like, and I'll take the hammer of Thor off my neck. Actually, it would have been looted, so I'll reach for it, and there's nothing to even give them, nothing for the gods. So I'll just like say a meek prayer, mumble it through like cracked lips. I'll grab Jörg's shield, and I'll run towards the enemy, try and distract them. Yep. So that these guys might have a hope.
Inspiration.
I'll give it to Taylor for a last death save.
Yeah, can you guys each make another death save?
I filled that second one.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, so close to a crit, a 19.
Okay.
Damn it.
Yeah, so I need you guys to keep rolling basically until you die or you stabilize.
With exactly a 10 on that last roll, that puts me at 3 successes, so I am stable.
All right, so let's see. All right, 1 hour till you wake up. It all rests on this, Taylor. One last roll.
I know, and I've got 3 dice, which have all given me shitty numbers.
Pray to the All Father. He'll never see you around.
Oh, come on, don't fall off. Oh, fuck. 9.
All right, so you breathe your last breath. The damage to the head, the blood, has like soaked through the clothing that like Thorn had wrapped around you so tightly, and your last breath is a shivering one as you lie in the muck in the rain. No weapon in your hand. You don't see the clouds part and Valkyries come down. You feel coldness. So running towards the enemy, Thorn, you're like running through the muck and through the forest in the rain. There's like of your footsteps. and you can hear like it's quite a way off, just as of hounds. And you can see now that there's like smoke as you like come close. There's like smoke rising from various parts of the forest as you enter into a glade. Although you don't see any men, you don't even hear them moving. You can just hear this barking. Are you going to continue running in that direction?
Okay, so Brow furrows at that. She's wondering why there's not more like looters or rapers about. The sound of this hound doesn't seem to be accompanied by shouts of alarm of men or the like. She would have imagined the man's like screaming earlier would have attracted further attention. Before weariness can set back in, like a heavy blanket, she'll move towards the sound of the barking hound, probably carelessly, stirring for a fight, in the hope that if any sentries did hear the ruckus before and find the murder scenes or vengeance scenes, as she'd call them, they'll think that it was her work and not seek my companions out. So that's what's her motivation. She rushed towards the hound, thinking there might be men near it.
Yeah. So you keep running, and probably slowing to a walk eventually as like exhaustion takes you, and you can see up ahead that there's a small camp. There's a hound, like a mastiff. He's like tied to a pole, and like a tent. There's a fire that's like a little bit smoky, but there's not really a fire there anymore. And there's like signs of people have been there, but you don't see anyone or hear anyone there. Just a dog.
And I don't recognize this dog as anyone from the rebellion.
No.
I'll walk over and crush its head in with the shield.
Yeah.
Oh, don't need to roll. It's probably a good chance I'll fail that. Yeah, I'll crush it and then just scrounge through the camp for food.
Yeah, you can see that there's like little bits of like smoked meat and jerky and stuff like that you can find and like greedily stuff in your mouth. Some hard bread that you can barely chew with your aching mouth, but it's some sustenance in your empty stomach.
Yeah, I'm going to pilfer the rest after like I hungrily eat a bit of the food, like stuff it into the pilfered hobo trousers I had. I used my shirt to bind Ira's wound, so I guess I'm like just half nude again and like grimy, probably shivering, but food is a priority. And then I'll look for blanket or anything like clean fabric that I could use to shred for bandages.
Yeah, there's there's a tent here, but also like in the tent there's a couple. There's like boots, dry boots, and there is like a little bit of fur and stuff that you could like strap and like tie onto yourself at the very least.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take whatever I can that I can carry, or maybe even use the shield like a basket to carry this heap of stuff in if it's too unwieldy for me. And you said there was a fire, but not anymore. Is there embers or coals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll like collapse the whatever I can't carry to take with me. I'll collapse into the coals to like burn it all.
Yeah, no problem.
Then seeing no fight about and the sound of the hound died away, I'll like slowly and wearily begin to make my way back to where I hid Ira and Asgeir.
Yeah. So you can do so, making way back, exhausted. I guess you would see Ira not breathing and cold and pale, although Asgeir seems to be breathing healthily, at least.
I think realizing that Ira's passed, you'll like drop the gear, like half defeated. And because of the way she is, like she wouldn't say sorry, but she'll vow to avenge her, and that her bravery won't be in vain. She'll look to her hands and see that there's no weapon in them, and then she'll just shudder, like uncontrollably, and tears will brim in her eyes, like the grief overcome now by like the lack of custom in her own. Like she didn't think, Thorn didn't think. And as she thinks that to herself, she remembers all the times her mother and father and other mentors had said that to her. You don't think, you don't think. And she didn't think again, and it cost this brave woman Valhalla. And I guess like reverie would set in and like pull her down in an inward spiral, except she hears like from Asgeir and remembers that she still has a responsibility. And so she'll like go through the cloak and stuff, and with the arrowhead, she'll begin like shredding some of the fabric to bind the worst of Asgeir's wounds, and When she sees his eyes like come round, she'll hastily like wipe her eyes and the tears away, not wanting him to see and like her be ashamed. And so she just manages to wipe like dried yurg guts and mud across her face like a badass Imperiosa war paint. And then she's like, do I look like a Valkyrie? And then she smiles, like revealing the 2 missing teeth and like her filthy ugliness.
And Asgeir would just smile, also missing the 1 tooth that had been bashed out of his face and stolen from him prior. Just being one of them at this point, but either way. And he kind of like would hold his hand up, hoping to be helped up.
Yeah, she'll end down with a warrior's grasp and like haul you up from the tree and try and support your weight until you get the feel of it. Pins and needles in your leg from being unconscious. And once she sees that you won't topple over, she'll unceremoniously begin like divvying up the loot she pilfered from that abandoned camp. She'll keep the dog-blooded shield for herself, though, but she'll make sure you're cloaked up, and she'll find a nearby branch to like break in the loop of her leg to serve as walking stick for you, so we look like 2 hobos. Really shocking. Because we've fought in the shield wall together, like she sees him like a brother, I guess, or the like. So she'll like stand close, comfortable with Asgeir, and say, "We've no time to see to the dead. Linger here. I found in a camp a ways off. At some point they'll return. They might track us. We need to go. We need to get the hell out of here."
Yes, let's waste no time about it. We have to go. And he would kind of like go to take a step on his hurt leg and just, if this starts to slow me down. But for now, let's go.
She goes as if to make a quip, but then like thinks better of it. There's no time. So she just nods. And she'll push forward like the shield before her, as if she's like marching into battle with a swift pace, leaving the battlefield further and further behind her, always kind of looking over her shoulder to make sure Asgeir's not lagging behind, I guess, to kind of look confident, but really it's out of fear.
So you guys are in Iskloft, which is like this big forest in the Outplot. It's like bisected by an enormous river. And you would be on the eastern side. If you go far enough east, you'll hit the ocean. The forest basically ends at a beach. If you go north, that's Gullenfeld, which is like the village, the town, the Jarldom, where you guys were from, and where you had tried to rebel. And south would lead you into like wide open kind of country, and eventually another Jarldom. But you're not too familiar with that area. If you were to go west, you would eventually hit that river. You know that there are bridges, that there's a bridge in Gullenfeld, but the river is very wide. So you don't know what the state of the bridges, if there are any in the forest, might be.
I think we need to find water both to drink, to clean our wounds, and also to hide our tracks from hound or man. So I'd beeline to the closest river that we can achieve that with, as far as if I'm like on point goes. But as for where we go after that, maybe like we could break camp and discuss that, unless we think the hounds are hot on our trail.
Sounds good to me.
So you begin moving westwards in the hope of finding that enormous river, so that you can wash your wounds and hide your trace. It's slow going with Asgeir's ruined leg. Yeah, it's pretty miserable. The rain is pretty heavy, and because it's filtered through the trees, it's not like consistent. It's just occasional, sort of like a on the back of your neck. It runs down your back. These big fat drops of rain, and yeah, you can see that they're dead all around, and it seems to spread very far. So obviously they went through a lot of trouble to to like make sure everyone was dead. Like they went and chased people down who fled. It looks like their MO was to make sure that no one gets away.
And I would assume that's more like Einar's ruling than Ogvai's like ethos.
Yes, Ogvai and the bastards, they're hired for a specific job, and if the Jarl says kill them all, then Ogvai will ensure that everyone is dead, we see the camera like pan, and you can see like Ira's open eyes in the brush, and there's like there's this enormous foot lands there. Some hours later, my lord, Jorg, Torsten, dead. What should we do?
Find them. Kill them. Or we don't get fucking paid.
Like rumbling voice, and the camera like pans up and up and up until eventually you come to the head of this like 15-foot tall horned creature. Ogvai, 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 3 names. He just like lifts this enormous hand and points. He like sniffs the air.
West.
We're just going to take a quick break there so I can grab a bottle of water.
Oh, and have 7 cigarettes. I'll be back.
Right, we'll call it 3 minutes, guys. And Taylor, you can definitely make a deserter that we'll deal in when we come back.
Ooh.
I'm back. If you're watching, I hope you're enjoying this utter brutality. I just thought it'd be interesting to give the players absolutely nothing and have them start with nothing, exhausted and near death, and see what happens. Just let me know when you're back, guys. I really like the danger of that scene. Like, just some dweeb, right? He's not a great warrior. He's just like a guy who isn't near death. Like, it's all it takes. Like, and he was able to like take down these rad heroes. It was great.
So brutal. Just well, I'm a level 5 fighter. That means I'm like a not when you have 3 HP. Like it's and these gaping hole in your leg and exhaustion. Like that dog could have killed us.
Yeah. All right, so Greta, you can hear uh, this like labored breathing and these like heavy sort of footsteps um, coming from your east. You've like set yourself up in a glade and you've like hidden yourself behind some bushes and stuff. You've pulled some stuff together and you've been hiding there waiting for these bastards to leave in the hopes that if you just hide long enough, they would eventually go away. But you can hear this like coming towards you. So Tay, that's you. Oh, maybe she's not here.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Oh, it's all good.
So I'm here. This heavy breathing, and Greta is, you know, clutching her little haft of a broken spear, and it's got the point on it, and she takes a breath, and as it gets closer, she peeks her head around the tree to see if it's one of these guys. She's gonna get ready to plunge it into his heart.
Yeah, you can see.
But if it seems to be another survivor,
no, it's one of them. You can see like he's got the red tunic, but he's like breathing heavily. You can see it's like he hasn't got a weapon. He's like limping, and you can see there's like blood flowing from his leg. It looks like he's taken a bite from something, and he's like limping, and he's like.
And he's coming my direction?
Yeah, he definitely doesn't see you. He's just like stumbling into the glade that you're in. There's a little stream here that you used to wash yourself after the battle. And he obviously heard that water and thought he could drink. He like sees it and he like stumbles over to it and like kneels and begins like cupping water and drinking from it.
Good. While he's got his face in, she's gonna come over and just put this spear right in the back of his neck.
Yeah, his like heart is beating too fast. His blood is pumping too fast for him to hear anything. He's just got that sort of like, and he's like slurping greedily, and then there's just, and you can like, with some difficulty, like put your foot on his head and pull the tip of the spear out. You two, Asgeir and Thorn, you can see as you like enter this little glade that there is a woman, and she's just murdered this man who's drinking from the stream.
Do we recognize her?
I think you would. She would have been part of the rebellion. There would have been probably 150 of you. You might have seen her around, but you wouldn't know her well the way you knew Ira.
Enough to know her name?
Probably, yeah.
Don't foul the water with that whore son, Greta, I'll say, announcing ourselves on like the outskirts of the woods from the glade.
Greta spins at the sudden voice behind her, but when she hears her name and sees your bloodied yet familiar face, she grins and then spits on the body. Don't worry, I'll keep his filth from our drink.
Yeah, she'll walk closer to you, urging Asgeir to come. If he doesn't recognize her, she'll like tell him through her body language, like it's all cool. And she'll like move towards you and make sure his blood isn't welling down into the water. And if once she's sure of that, she'll drink down and slake her thirst and like wash her filth. She doesn't want to like she's happy to find another survivor, but she doesn't want to tell Greta how they survived and what happens because it means admitting her failure, and she's too proud. So she'll like just drink, feel her belly swelling up like with the water.
And after Thorn had kind of given Asgeir kind of a knowing nod of like, hey, this person's not going to kill us, at least that we know of, kind of, because there's too much happening to do that, but would kind of limp over towards the river as well, just with almost just more of a grunt and a nod than any sort of actual communication, would follow alongside Thorn and begin drinking and trying to wash up some of his wounds, particularly his leg.
Yeah,
she'll introduce. Oh, sorry.
When you like peel the cloth away from your leg, it's like painful. Like you pull a bit of a scab off the leg, and there's like blood, thick sort of black blood flowing. But you can like wash it. Although it hurts, you know it's probably going to be helpful in the long run.
Wiping the water from her lips and smacking them dry, she'll turn to Greta and say, "We need to get out of here, get some dry wood, and get a fire. We need to work at that wound." She like gestures down to Asgeir.
We'll have to be well away for a fire. The dogs have hunted down so many.
There's a twitch at the corner of Thorn's lip, and her eyes like fall away from Greta's gaze, and she nods. This is Torsten's boy, Asgeir. She like nods over her shoulder towards Asgeir as he winces by the water. Asgeir, this is Greta.
Nice to make your acquaintance, though I wish it could be under better circumstances.
She raises an eyebrow at the manners present in such circumstance. Lifts her chin. Says, well met, Asgeir. Can you walk?
Well enough, but not as well as I'd like.
Here, she thrusts. She has about a half spear that she's just pulled from the back of this guy's neck. It's no proper cane, but it'll give you some support.
As you would just kind of give a grim nod, not wanting to accept it, necessarily want to accept how much his leg is holding him back, but realizing that this is not the time for pride, but pragmatics, would just and take the half spear.
We were heading west for the wider waters. Thorn will say to you guys, or mainly for Greta's benefit. We need to throw off the scent of
Myself as
any who
well.
pursue us. We should cross this stream and follow it a time, and then cross to the other bank.
There's this low growl coming from the back of the glade. You can see there's a wolf there. It's got blood in its mouth, and it's like sniffing. And its like eyes fall on the body of the dead man, and it's like looking at you. And it just lets out this like low sort of growl.
That's an omen from the gods, she says.
Greta, not breaking eye contact with this wolf, kind of crouches down, wrenches the cloak off the body, and then backs up.
So as you guys like slowly cross the stream, the wolf begins to pad forward. And it's like sniffing along the ground, but it never really stops looking at you. That's it, just like low, like as it approaches. And you can see that behind it then are others, 3 others that come out of different parts of the glade, and they like watch nervously as you like step away from their kill.
Do not worry, says Thorn, trying to summon up some false courage. Wolves fear water, and she'll like splash into the frigid water that they were drinking from earlier and begin like pushing onwards and turn her back on them, trying to look tough. But you guys can probably see through that or know her well enough.
And Asgeir would just follow suit and just almost not necessarily caring to try to see through the ruse or not. In fact, he's probably putting up a similar front of pride and courage when in fact it's better circumstances a couple wolves would. But in their condition, Asgeir is just doing anything he can to let the wolves have their way with this body and try to back up and get out of their path.
Yeah, so as you kind of step away and you move further back, like the lead wolf kind of approaches the body and like sniffs at it and like bites at the arm, and the others come and they drag it away from the water and begin to feed on it. Although one of them stays and watches you until you're out of sight.
Greta brings up the rear behind Asgeir, and she's kind of crooning softly under her breath, keeping eye contact with the one wolf who's watching them, the rear guards, and just at the moment, all yours, all yours. Clear the world of the weak and the wicked wolves.
So you cross the bank and you begin moving down, up or downstream.
West.
Okay. Yeah. So
if there's a way, like if the river curves in such that both options are viable on our passage west, then I'd go against the current for purposes of not being tracked.
Yeah. Sure. So you do that. You go against the current up away from where you had been previously. And again, it's just like this rain and this forest noise. Although you don't hear any pursuit, you don't hear the wolves follow you, which you're grateful for. As you continue moving ever westward, exhausted, shaking from the cold, and now on your not your second wind, not your third, but like your 10th wind at this stage. So tired. You walk until evening comes. Are you going to walk through the night?
We need to rest. We need to see to Asgir's wound. It's the first night that's not been raining since we were defeated. There were no wolves this afternoon. She says that more of a question, and when she sees the nod from Greta, she'll turn to begin looking about for some tinder and kind of like if there's possible like a copse of trees or like boulder or the like which would shelter our firelight from a easterly approach.
Sure. You can make me a survival check, one of you.
Gladly. 17.
Yeah, so you're able to find enough dry bits of wood and tinder to make a fire, and you can even find that there is like a fairly large rock that you could like hide behind, putting east at your back. There's like a thick copse of trees behind it as well. And so you're able to like start the fire and greedily sit around warming your hands, which have almost gone numb from the cold at this stage, and like begin drying out clothes and just not being freezing for once.
I took Outlander feed as well, so I'll return if I may with like a nest I've pilfered from a tree with some firewood. There's a couple of eggs in it. Well, there's 3, so one for each of us. I'll just crunch at mine, like chew it down while I hand out the rest for you guys, and put my pilfered arrowhead so that the metal of it's in the corner of the fire. And when I see it glowing hot, I'll like give a nod to Greta, like inclining my head towards Asgir, who I imagine looks pretty cold and on the edge of fever if he's had like a filth-blooded wound like that.
Yeah.
So he'll move over and pull at the belt from these pilfered trousers and like take it off and like put it through his teeth. Well, not all of them, of course, because he, like her, is missing a couple now. She'll give like an ugly grin. And you can hear the rattle and wheeze of her breath from her like repetitively broken nose. You ready?
And Asgir with the belt just in his mouth would just kind of take a few just and then just kind of just nod.
On 3. 1.
And just through the belt, just trying to keep as quiet as he can given the circumstances, but there's just some amount of pain that you just can't keep quiet in that point, and just gives a muffled growl through the belt in his mouth at the just searing pain.
You feel Greta's cold hands like on your shoulders, holding you steady, keeping you from thrashing about too much.
And after a short time, enough of the pain subsiding that it's not causing him to go into convulsions or any sort of hypertension, just spits the belt out of his mouth. Just, damn, some things you just do.
Thorn will smile approvingly at her like grim handiwork and like the bubbled mess that sealed the wound. She'll take like some wet socks or something and place it over it to cool and soothe it, and now like break out the dried lamb.
Yes, you eat in the heat of the fire, warming your bones, which have become icy cold. It's so good to sit down. Like when you sit, all the pain in your back and in your legs kind of relaxes for a little bit. And it's just so satisfying. Is the plan now to sleep?
Yeah, you should sleep, Asgar. I'll take first watch.
Greta snorts. You both are death warmed over. You sleep, the pair of you.
Thorn snarls and like turns, tries to look hard and cold towards you. But in like this like lonely firelight, I think all the like premises are laid bare, so she'll kind of submit to your wise words. and she falls asleep much quicker than she expects. And snores like a trucker.
It's not as cold, Greta, although you're by the fire, so it's not too bad. You can hear howling during the night of wolves. Pretty frequent. Although they don't seem to be too close to you, you can still hear it echoing throughout the forest. There's one point during the night where you hear the of metal on metal, and you are kind of like on high alert, but it never seems to get closer, and you don't actually encounter anything, and you're able to sleep through the night, Thorn and Asgeir, so you can. Oh, you don't get your hit dice back, yeah, but you can relax. I think you. How does it work? You can spend hit dice on a short rest, can't you? Or you're doing a long rest, so you can.
Yep.
Yeah, you can heal up.
So we spend all of our hit dice, and then we get half our hit dice back because we've taken a long rest.
There we go.
I believe that's like regular anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe in Iskloft it should be less in our favor than that. I say on 4 hit points.
I think you heal. I don't know how much good sleeping on the wet ground would do you. What I'll say is you can heal to half, and you can get half your hit dice back.
And do we get our like class feature stuff back too? Action surges and the like.
Yep. So you rest through the night, recovering, and you wake up feeling sorer than yesterday. All the wounds feel worse today, and you've definitely like pulled muscles, and you know you've run for most of the day yesterday, barefoot through the woods, and so like your feet hurt, your legs hurt, your back hurts, everything hurts. Although you're alive, and you probably feel a bit tougher and a bit more hale this morning than you did last night. Although your stomach rumbles, having eaten only a little bit of dried lamb and some eggs last night, you definitely have the need to eat. Yeah, but the day dawns, and it's raining once again. These drops kind of falling through the trees. Yeah, it's up to you.
When we break camp the next morning, Thorn would turn to Greta and say, "What are your plans once we reach the wide waters?"
It depends on what we find when we get there. You expect her to say more.
I do.
But she just looks down, says nothing else.
And what about you, Asgeir? Oh, sorry.
And just the memories of the battle and of seeing her friends and her family cut down and not knowing where else to go.
Well, we certainly can't go back. Being known and hunted rebels, be a sure death sentence. Any ideas?
Once we reach the wide water, I'm north, she says, back to Einar's hold. I'm going to go and kill him, she says casually.
Kind of like the sound of that, actually.
I will join you.
Way I reckon it, she says, and like then her sinuses rattle, so she clears with like a ungraceful. Way I see it, Einar's dead. Bastards have no work. That's the only way we get out of this alive. probably the best way to wind up dead too. And at that, she'll press on west.
As long as I die with a
Shallow
weapon in my
vengeance
hand.
When you say that, like she falters in her steps and her eyes close, and then she'll like continue on a little faster than she means to, probably pushing on a little too far ahead as point.
Yeah, and hearing that, Asgeir would just kind of fall into a little bit of a grim silence as well, and just kind of not picking up pace to match with Thorn, but just kind of letting that statement carry on, just a deathly quiet.
So moving quietly through the woods, you're moving west for the morning and into the afternoon, just like moving nonstop. Occasionally you'll like pause for a second to catch your breath, but mostly you're just moving as quick as you can. Running is difficult, especially for Asgeir with his wound. And so you move as quickly as your slowest member, which unfortunately is not very quick. And you continue through the day, and it's probably about just past noon, and you can hear this like you've been walking along a path, not a path as such, but like the path of least resistance. There's like sort of a groove in the way ahead of you, and you've been moving along that. And as you're walking out from a like, as you can imagine, it's kind of like a steep hill, and you're on like this ridge basically, and out from like the bush comes this little baby bear. It like sits down on the road in front of you and makes a little cute bear noise. It's like sniffing the path.
Run.
Greta backpedals immediately.
Run. And she'll go to Asgeir and like put her like long, like I imagine she's a little bit taller than him, so she has to like stoop to get under his shoulder, and so it's like an awkward father-son potato sack race, or like three-legged race. She's like hauling Asgeir with Jörg's dog-blooded shield on her back.
Yeah, so you begin running back the way you came, and the little bear is like excited by this. It makes a little like noise and like it's trying to chase you. Obviously not understanding what's going on here. Another little bear comes out behind him, and then a mother bear. At this stage, you're probably about 100 feet away. You can see the mother bear like sniffing the air. And it sees you just about as you're like running as quickly as you can. There's like a steep hill beneath you where you can stay on this ridge, or you can go up to the right. The bear is worried, like her little cub is following you. What are you gonna do?
Slide down the incline with like Asgeir, like tuck my cloak like between my legs at the back, so like make like a toboggan or like, and just slide down the incline, because it's quicker, I would assume, falling than Asgeir can limp. Without a word, like she'll just slip and try and like put as much distance as she can as possible, with not too much foresight, as is her wont.
Sure. So you're like running along this path, and then you're like, you see the mother bear come out, and then you like basically just like fling yourself off the side, try and like skid down.
Yeah,
it's a pretty long skid. The two of you like you're like hitting into saplings and bushes and stuff, and occasionally like a sharp rock.
If I see stuff like that, can I put myself in harm's way to try and safeguard Asgeir? Like I know I can put my feet on a rock and bounce myself off it, as opposed to he can probably just injure him even further. Yeah,
no problem. But as is the case, is when you're like rolling down hills like this, eventually, if you gather enough speed, you begin to roll, and that starts to happen. It's a lot further than it seemed. There was trees and stuff and cover in the way, and so now you're like going pretty fast down this hill, and you begin to like roll and bounce almost. Greta, did you go with them?
Greta saw them go off and just, oh, Father, protect us. And she just takes off, and that kind of where you're running downhill and your legs can't keep up with the force of gravity. And so she's going, and at some point there's just like this trip and this face plant and then up on her feet and repeat all the way down.
Yeah.
It's entirely ungraceful, and all she can think about is that bear behind me, and she's listening and looking over her shoulder and just chasing after the makeshift toboggan.
Yeah, so you begin to like boom, boom, slap, boom, splat, boom, like as you're like rolling down this hill, like smacking into rocks and trees and stuff like that. But eventually, the three of you will come to a stop at the bottom, and like skid. Basically, the trees will stop. It'll turn into just a regular grassy hill, and eventually, just like a bit of ground. You don't hear the bear. You don't see the bear.
Cannot cut through that way and risk fighting with the she-bear, especially if she's cubs about. We'll have to find another route west. She'll pull like a twig out of her hair.
Greta's spitting dirt out of her mouth. Her face is scratched by rocks and branches, and her palms are bloodied from the many times catching herself. It would have been almost comical if it hadn't been such a life or death situation. And she spits the dirt. Yes. In another way, perhaps one with fewer hills.
Yeah, Thorn will nod and then keep like one eye. Where you go?
Just gonna say, Asger would kind of just pull himself up with another groan. I imagine pulling twigs out of like the bandage in his leg and stuff that was getting in there, trying to make sure that there's nothing that ends up alongside that wound. Just if we could keep away from the hills next time.
So you continue walking westwards, avoiding that bear's territory. You hope, for another couple of hours. It starts to get dark in Iskloft about 4 o'clock, and you think that's about the time that it is. The sun lessens, the rain continues, it starts to get colder, and as you're kind of like moving in that half light, you are passing along trees and streams and stuff like that, but eventually you'll come to like an open gladed area, and there's this big standing stone in it. This big almost perfectly rectangular standing stone, and it's covered all over with like these spirals and swirls. At the center there's like a sideways diamond shape with a line through it. That's a symbol of the Allfather. Obviously, once a shrine, it's like overgrown with moss and vines and stuff like that now. But you can see like the tree line hasn't encroached. There's like almost a perfect circle around it.
Didn't you call to the Allfather this morning? Says Thorn with an ugly grimace. That's kind of trying to be a smile. And she says that to Greta.
I did, but I didn't expect this. Greta will kind of cautiously walk around the outside of the circle. The hairs on the back of her neck are standing up at this almost perfect circle around the shrine, and she's wary. She's heard the stories of the perversions of those who follow other gods, and she's going to be walking around it and looking in particular for any sign that it's been desecrated.
Sure, you give me a religion check.
12.
You don't think so. It doesn't look to be. It's just basically this huge stone that's been placed here, and that symbol of Odin is like an older symbol. Like now they would like carve it very carefully. They'd put his face in there, but in ancient days they would just do a sideways diamond with a line through the middle. That's his eye, the one that works. and yeah, it just seems to be like a shrine to Odin.
Perhaps we can be safe here for a time.
There's a twitch at the corner of Thorn's mouth again, and she mouths the word with her face away from them, safe, as she eyes the statue and feels the scrutiny of the All-Father on her and her previous failings laid bare. Shivers, though it's not as cold as it was the night before, and looks around to busy herself gathering firewood or the like.
Yeah, you can do so. You can grab some saplings and stuff and cut off branches and get enough tinder together to start a fire.
This would be the last of the lamb, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just checking out the pounds. Pretty sure.
One.
Yep, so on half rations, which we would have been doing, that's it. So the last of the lamb gets shared around. I'll return from firewood. Maybe some of them have bits of fungus on the side. It's an Outlander feature. I'll kind of pass out the mushrooms as well as the last of the lamb to kind of beef up the meal, because I know it's just long days of trekking ahead of us and we need to keep a good pace or we'll fall prey to predators.
Greta takes her lamb and she tears off about half of it, and she goes and she sets it at the foot of the shrine, and she pours out just a little bit of water onto it, having no mead, no wine, and just says a quick prayer.
The monolith simply stares.
Thorn's a skeptical distance away, sitting like cross-legged in her ragged trousers, like working at the fire once she's believes it'll take. She sits back and watches the libations, and she'll say, against her better judgment, like she always does, I don't know if the All-Father's listening to anyone in Einar's hold.
And Greta's back stiffens briefly, and she rises from her prostrate position and returns to the fire. Looks you over. The All-Father's eyes see all. Odin watches over his children. He must.
She stares at the fire as the words wash over her with the heat.
So who's on watch this evening?
I'll take first watch.
Yeah, I'll take second.
Okay. So you sit and watch out into the darkness, Thorn, during your watch. Again, you can hear that howling all around, although they don't seem to approach here. Maybe that's auspicious. Maybe they wouldn't come to kill here at the shrine of the All-Father. Yeah, but other than that, your watch passes uneventfully. Asgeir, towards the end of your watch, you've been sitting here and you've been like, kind of sleepy, but awake enough. You've been like trying to manage the pain in your leg. But as your watch is coming to an end, in the last 30 minutes or so, you can see out in the darkness sort of a vague light, yellowy light.
As soon as he sees the light kind of peering in through the trees, he would take the wooden end of his half spear, and just kind of tap on his companions with the end of it, trying to wake them up. And just
I'm sorry,
in a
Thorn burst awake.
in a quiet whisper, would just kind of take the spear point and just kind of nudge at Thorn and point the spear in the direction of the light.
Her eyes are level in the light, the direction that you point, and wait till she adjusts. I'm going to gauge how far away that is, Lloyd. Don't have exhaustion anymore, but I still have the -5, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good roll. So 18 minus 5, 13 plus 3, 16 perception.
Okay, yeah, so you can just see these lights there kind of up on a hill. You think in terms of walking, 10 minutes. I don't know what kind of distance that is. Yeah. A couple of 100 feet.
She'll like reach out with her grimy foot to find Greta and like kick her awake. Trying to angle herself that if Greta's eyes open, the first thing she'll see is Thorn with a finger over her pursed lips.
Greta comes awake. Her instinct is just quiet. What is it?
Her eyes will like point in the direction that Asgeir showed her this faint light.
Greta sits up and tilts her head to the side, watching it and trying to gauge if it's moving.
It absolutely is.
Closer or kind of like across a path?
Closer.
Is our fire out?
I wouldn't think so.
If it's not, Greta begins putting it out immediately. Smothering it. Kicking and stamping at the embers and scattering them in the dirt.
Thorn's going to take a lamb bone that she's been grinding on a river stone to a deadly point in one hand and the shield with the dog's blood on it in the other, and stooping low like a Scooter Gagan gives like a grim and tooth-missing smile. Hunter becomes the hunted. She'll stalk off into the darkness in the direction of the light.
Do you others follow?
Yeah, Asgeir would follow, probably not immediately behind, kind of keeping a 15, 20 feet behind Thorn, kind of keeping watch to the sides as she kind of goes up ahead.
Sure. Greta?
Greta, watching this, looks back at the Odin stone. Puts her palm against the center of the eye, and then turns to follow, but veers out towards the right. So if they're kind of going on a straight line, she's coming around on the side.
Sure. So as you begin walking, you can then see that there are definitely torches being held aloft, and that there seem to be 10 of them, of these torches. They're moving in like a kind of like a semicircle pattern, and they're moving in this direction. You can't make much more than that at this stage unless you want to get right up to them. It is dark.
How big are the trees here? Greta would like to attempt to climb one and be high enough up that if they pass beneath her, she can get a good look at them and not be noticed.
Okay, you can make me an acrobatics check.
Ooh. That is not my strong suit.
I guess for athletics. I'm not sure what you use for climbing this game.
I rolled an 18 on the die.
Okay. Yeah, so you find an ash tree, and you begin to like pull your way up, and you can get onto like the second tier of branches, which are still pretty sturdy, and you're able to like sit up there and look down. You think that if somebody passed beneath you, you'd get a good look at who it was. Thorn and Asgeir, if you're still approaching, you'll begin to hear like the sort of like the heavy breathing of men who've been walking for some time, and you would see now that like there's the glint of metal as well. So obviously they're armed as well as holding these torches. They seem to be like an equal distance apart. It's obviously like a deliberate pattern that they've done in the hopes of like finding maybe you. Yeah, and so they're spread out or whatever.
Can I stealth close to them so I can get I want to recognize, like try and figure out who they are.
Sure.
Thorn does, I think I know. My stealth will be 13.
Okay. Let's see. Right, so you're kind of moving closer and like moving from behind one tree to another, and you get this glimpse. There's like a man you recognize from the battle with like the golden plates on his chain. These are bastards, Ogvai's bastards, some of them anyway. Obviously been charged with finding any strays or runaways. Also among them is the man that you remember, Asgeir with the half face tattoo. But yeah, a bunch of the warriors that you would have faced off against in the shield wall. You can see that most of them are like armed and armored. They look well rested, confident. One of them has 2 dogs with him, which are silent at the moment. 2 like big mastiffs, and he's got like the chains or whatever wrapped around his right hand. He's this big fat man. And he's like, like trying to keep up with the rest of them, and the dogs are like pulling him along. But as you kind of get closer, there's like a.
I'll stand out of the shadows, reeling I've been detected. I want to stand like on the edge of their vision, just like a statue of a corpse or something, and I'll seek out golden plates and I'll yell out, "Golden plates! Hell didn't want me, so she spat me back out. I've come for you." And I'm kind of trying to distract them from other companions that I know are a ways off, hidden in the dark.
What is this? And he's like looking around. He can actually barely see you in the darkness.
I'll step into the firelight.
You? Didn't I kill you?
Not well enough.
Guess I'll have to try again.
Good luck. And she'll dart towards him.
All right. Roll me initiative, bud.
Odin, witness me.
Does a lamb shank count as a weapon?
I mean, if you hit somebody hard enough.
I took the lamb bone, sorry.
Are you guys running initiative, Asgeir and Greta, or are you going to flee, like any sane person would?
Greta is up in the tree and she is not moving.
Okay.
She's convinced. She can kind of see this a little bit, and she hears Thorn's unmistakable voice, and she just thinks, "Oh, Father," her brains are rattled, and she's not gonna commit suicide.
Well, the good thing about you being up high in that tree is that everyone who walks by can see your yellow belly. You know, that's good.
It'll be a living belly.
Yeah. Asgeir at the sound of Thorn announcing herself to these 10 kind of his heart will kind of skip a beat at the sudden sound of voices, but best as he can, limp in the other direction, taking this as a distraction, more so than anything.
If you do this initiative, this is going to take me a while. So it's just Thorn against 10.
I was hoping Golden Plates would at least fight me one-on-one, and then the rest slaughter me.
These are not honorable men, they are bastards. Okay, and so this golden plated man, this like long gold hair. He like pulls a sword from his belt. He's obviously a lord of some kind. He's definitely wealthy with golden plates in his armor. He like pulls the sword out and he like he doesn't have a shield, he's got a torch in his other hand. He like hands that to the man next to him, and he like puts both hands around the haft of his sword. I guess I'll have to kill you again. And he like takes some steps forward, and then begins running, and he's gonna try and slash at you with a 17, which I think will hit you.
Oh yeah.
Going to be 13 damage, my lord, with the first. This long sword like slashes into your arm. He brings it up to slash again, but it like bites into the rim of the shield and becomes stuck right in the rim of the shield there. As he does so, one of the men in his company, this like slight looking man, very wiry, he like brings the bow up and like quietly takes an arrow from his quiver and like pulls and fires. Oh boy, with a 24.
That just misses my non-vital organs.
Yeah. What's your armor class?
It is 16.
Okay.
I got the shield in my main hand.
All right. So it's going to be 4 points of damage, but it is going to be a minor brutal wound.
Okay.
So I'm going to roll some dice here. Or do you want to roll them, Lord, or will I?
No, you roll. You are the dollar of pain. Merely a vessel.
Okay. Yeah, so this arrow goes right into your calf and it slices through the muscle. And you need to make a dex save throw, please.
Oh yeah, 19.
Yeah, so you don't fall over from the pain, but you can feel this like blood like pouring down. You're not wearing boots, are you? You're barefoot.
Yep. Well, I imagine I've got like mud shoes on now.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. So it just continues bleeding. You're going to have your movement reduced by 10.
okay. I just need to get next to this guy.
Yeah. So he fires that arrow at you from outside the battle. Olaf, one of these other gentlemen. This is the he's got this like red rimmed shield. He like takes a step forward and is like watching the battle carefully. He's kind of got this grin in his face. But Ragnar like sees him and like shakes his head, and so he just stands about 10 feet away from the two of you, with his axe primed and his shield up, waiting. Sigurd walks up next to him and stands there as well. And then it's your turn.
She'll curse golden plates for a coward and tell the rest of his men that he needs that woman, pointing to the archer, to shoot me down because he's afraid that I'll get next to him. She'll give a bloody smile and like limp with her torn calf towards her prey. She's going to take the dodge action and she's going to second wind. Of course, I got a 1 for that. And I guess pretend to fight.
Okay, so you're at golden plates, and you're like
Got my
jumping.
shield in my main hand, and yeah, I'm just dodge action, so like just constantly trying to like be in the defensive stance and let him tire him out, so he thinks that's my game. But really, I'm trying to give as much time for the others to flee for their lives as I can.
Yeah. So Rayloff is another one of these warriors. He like stands next to the other 3, watching the fight as Ragnar has given them the signal not to get involved. But Knut won't have it. He's like this very wiry, very tall. He's got like 2 axes. He's not holding a torch. And he like moves forward. He's got this like weird sort of walk, kind of sinewy. And he's got this like blank look at his face, like he's like slack jawed, and he's like looking on in kind of like morbid fascination at the battle. His head is like turned slightly to the right, like a dog trying to listen. And then he like smiles and like leaps in. He's going to try and swing at you with his axes. Oh god! So he misses the first one, but the second one is a crit.
With disadvantage?
Disadvantage.
As a dodge action,
Nope.
remember?
So he misses the first one, and he misses the second one. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Good to remind me, because it would have been death. So he like leaps forward. He's like trying to get at you, but you're like too quick, and you've got the shield up, and one of the axes like glances off the shield, and he's like swinging quickly, but your dance is enough. Keep him
Quickly, Ragnar, call more of your men in. Death comes for you.
Steiner the Wall, this very, very large man. He's got the tattoo on half of his face and the red shield. He just stands where he is. He's watching the proceedings, and he's like looking out into the woods, wary of this being a trap. He knows that only a maniac would do what you've done. Wolfric goes and stands with the rest of them 10 feet from the battle, their shield wall now opposite you, watching. Arn the Dogtooth, he begins moving forward, and his dogs are like going ballistic, going mental, trying to get involved, and he's like trying to hold them back for now. And Jorman joins the shield wall. Ragnar is up again. He like takes this big 2-handed sword, a long sword, and he's going to try and smash you with it.
Disadvantage, remember.
Yeah. Another crit gone to waste, and that one will hit though. So that would be it's going to be 10 slashing damage to you this time.
Okay.
Big 200 swing, like cuts into the leg, and he pulls the sword back out. Leaf the Eagle is going to once again draw an arrow and try and pierce you with it. He misses the first, and he misses the second. As the dodge continues to protect you. Olaf and Sigurd are both standing in a shield wall waiting, and it's your turn.
It's taking everything Thorn's got not to try and kill these guys, and in the process get herself killed because she's trying to buy time. So lamely enough, I'm just going to dodge again.
He's next to you, yeah? Golden Plates is fighting you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I moved up next to him and then dodged.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so you continue dodging. The two of you, Greta and Askir. So Askir, you were going to try and run for it, is that right?
Yeah, basically, while this skirmish is breaking out, Asger is trying to basically get like around, so kind of cut out and then back around to try to get into the path they've already walked. Won't find him as they continue their pattern. He's trying to make sure he gets far enough away that he's not gonna. He does that.
Okay, so can you make me a stealth with advantage?
With advantage, that is going to be an 18.
Okay, yeah. So you're moving around, pretty far outside of the line, and yeah, you don't think that they've seen you as you're walking all this way around, trying to get back. It's a good idea to get where they've searched already, and you begin making your way that way. Greta, you're staying in the tree.
She's gonna get down and go see if she can find Asger. She's pretty sure he can't make it on his own with his leg.
Okay.
And she recognizes Thorn's tactic now that she can kind of hear. She knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Suicide and time buying.
Yeah, anyone who knows Thorn would like see that it's like an unorthodox fighting style for her.
Yeah. So you can go down. Now he's after going very sneaky. So, but I think you would probably follow the drip of blood from his leg, and you knew where he was to start with, so you'd be able to follow him around, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Rayloff does nothing. Knut is going to try and hack you down with axes, with a miss and a miss. Fucking dodge. Steiner does nothing. Wolfert does nothing. Dogtooth is going to let go of his dogs, and they're going to rush up to you and try to murder you.
Didn't I kill one of your brothers? Thorn will like spit as the dogs rush towards her.
All right, so one of them is going to connect. It's going to be 2 points of damage, but I need you to make a strength save.
Crit, natural
Nice.
20, so 20 million.
Yeah. So the second dog can't get on you. The first one like bites into your arm for a second, but you like get the lamb bone and like, and it like whimpers and flees. Yorman continues to stand. They're all standing now in this wall. They begin to like bash weapons and shields as they watch Ragnar.
She smiles at the sound of it, masking the escape of her friends.
Yep. Back to Ragnar. He is going to try and finally finish you with one hit. That is going to be not too bad. 6 slashing damage.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So you're moving too quickly, and he's like in this heavy mail and everything, and his fighting style you can tell will be super effective against someone that's similarly armored. But you're like way quicker than he is, and he's taking these big sort of big hewing swings, and he's not able to catch you most of the time. The eagle is going to try and pierce you with some arrows. He misses the first, and he misses the second. So his arrows like thudding in the ground around you, but none of them hit their mark. And it's back to you, Thorn.
Thorn has no problem being a dirty fighter against these types of people, and that's why as she left the camp, she like prodded her honed lamb bone into their like wherever they were going to take shits, pretty much. And she's going to change tack now and try and drive this lamb bone into Golden Plate's neck because her death is so close. So first, she's going to try and smash him under the jaw with the shield with her main hand for an improvised weapon attack. It's going to be 24 to hit.
Yes, sir.
So that's going to be D4. 7 bludgeoning damage. And then with the lamb bone to the neck, it's going to be 17 to hit.
17?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, just does it.
Oh, okay. This is going to be D4 as well. So 2 plus 4, 6 piercing damage. And as like the like she finds the wedge between his the arm and his neck, she'll drive the bone in, and then give this wicked glee, like knowing the infection will take him, and she like hisses at him through like bloody foam and cracked teeth. Death comes for you, and she's screwed. That's it for her.
Yeah, when you actually hit him, he was taking this kind of like looking at it as like a distraction, like a fun thing. But when you like hit him, you can see his face change from like, oh, this is a fun diversion to, yeah, fuck this. And he just says, kill. And they begin moving forward. Rayloff is going to come forward and try and murder you also. You see them basically, all the lads in the shield wall move forward. But he actually misses you. Canute is going to hit and a hit, so 2 hits for 12 slashing and 2 axes. But he's swinging wildly. Like now that you're not focused too much or as much on the strange dance that you were doing, this like insane movement. When you make the attack, your movement pattern becomes a bit more predictable, and Knut sees it. He's like watching weirdly from the outside, and then finally just like 2 axe blows.
To my back.
Yeah.
I'll reel forward, like it nearly kills me.
Steiner the wall, this big hulking man comes over and takes the rim of his shield and just like tries to smash it into the side of your head. Oh god, yeah, with a 24.
That just hits.
Is that 10 over or less than 10 over your armor class?
My AC at the moment is 16, so
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So then it's a minor.
Actually, my AC is 15. I just did the math.
Okay, yeah, still not 10 though. Is it? No.
Nope, 9.
Yeah. Oh, this is bad. I think you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Need to get some elevator music for these brutal hit. Yeah, so the side of the shield just cracks the skull. There's just like immediate fracture, and your like vision already poor begins to like cloud dramatically. You swoon back and then forward, and then like as you swoon forward, the pommel of Steiner's sword smashes you in the face again. There's like teeth crack, and like blood sprays, and it like bursts the like all the swelling around your nose bursts, and there's just this spray of blood as you like hit down into the muck, unconscious. I think the last thing you see is like Ragnar step on your chest and just like drive the sword into your chest.
I'll smile bloodily the whole way and grip the shitty lamb bone tightly in my hand.
The rest of you have like made your way around, and you're like fleeing as quickly as you can back the way you had come. You can hear the dogs like howling and barking, as they like are very excited by like the kill that's been made. It's going to take these gentlemen about 10 minutes to realize that they're not barking at the kill. They're barking at you guys, although you've made it a little bit further. So it's nighttime, it's dark, you don't have any torches. Are you just going to run until you can't anymore?
Yeah, at this point, with 10 of them and dogs who will soon be after us as well, I think that's basically the only option. Is Asger's just going to go until either far enough or until he falls over.
Do we have any sense? Is there any water nearby so we could walk through it and maybe lose the dogs?
I guess you could probably hear it. Maybe you could make a perception check.
Mm. 17? That was better than I thought it was going to be.
So you can hear the lapping of water against the shore. You've traveled quite a bit west, and as you kind of like keep running towards that sound, you can see this river, which is called. I made up this name earlier, so I better not forget to use it. So the Fiota is the river here. It's this big, very wide river that bisects this forest, and you can see it in front of you. Although there's no boat, nothing like that. You'd have to try and swim across. You can see now, like it's clear. You know, there's no trees directly by the river, and you see the sky, and there's like clouds overhead, and just like rain smashing against the river itself.
Can you swim?
I should be all right.
All right, I grab him kind of like by the elbow under the armpit, and we haul into the river. I'm going to let it carry us, like, see if we can kind of float a little bit and let it carry us downstream a ways. Is it moving quick or slow?
Slow. It's really wide here.
Okay, then so I'm going to kind of swim with it downstream. Greta grew up by the sea, and she is like talking Asgard through, okay, float on your back, keep your legs up, just let me do the work. And letting him kind of relax as she paddles them downstream with the current and then towards the opposite bank.
Sure. You can see, like, as you're trying to make your way across this river, it's really wide. It's a couple of 100 feet wide, and you're like trying to swim across. About a minute later, you can see at the bank the torches of the men and the snarling of the dogs. The golden plated one just like paces up and down. He like can't get in there with his army. He's not leaving this relic, this extremely expensive armor behind. But he has a mission to do. So he like looks at Leaf, the archer, and he like you can see him like pull the bow back, and he's going to begin firing on you guys.
See us? How dark is it?
How dark?
Yeah, we're quiet.
Yeah,
like as soon as like is there it was raining, right?
Yes.
So there's no moon?
No.
Okay. I was just wondering if they could even see us as far downstream as we were.
Yeah.
Not very far, but.
So he begins firing. Splash, splash. You're kind of amazed at how quickly this guy is firing arrows. He must be skillful. But they're not even near you, most of them. You know, it actually looks like he's firing more randomly than anything. He'd hear the dogs barking, so he knows you're in there somewhere. It doesn't seem like he can see you. Yeah, and eventually you'll make it to the other side of the river.
The water is freezing cold, and as we get kind of to the shallows of the other side, just whisper to Asgard, just stay down. If we don't make noise, they might not know where we are. We'll just wait for them to leave. I know it's cold, but we have no choice.
And Asgard would just give a determined nod, tongue between his teeth so that his chattering just bites into his tongue instead of off of each other. Just trying to keep any possible noise that he might make to a complete minimum.
Yeah. You can see on the other side, like they're standing there with these torches. You can see like the underbrush kind of shake, and stepping out behind them is your worst nightmare, Ogvai, 3 names. He's 15-foot tall, redheaded giant. He's got 2 horns that have been like cut off at some stage. He just wears this enormous like pelt of various different skins that have been stitched together. And he's like looking across the side, and you can hear the dogs. And he looks at them, and they both just whimper and fall to silence. He just looks out into the darkness. He like sniffs the air. And even from across the river, hundreds of feet away, you can hear and almost feel the rumbling of this guy's voice.
You will not escape this forest. Face your death with dignity.
Silence. Greta doesn't move. I mean, she's really just got like her mouth and nose kind of out of the water.
And everyone on that side of the bank is totally silent. They're all just like looking straight ahead. No one wants to make eye contact with Ogvai. You see, like looks around. He says something to the man next to him, quietly, as quietly as he can. You can still hear like the ooh, ooh, but you can't make out the words. And they all go back into the forest. You can see the torches heading downstream, although you don't know if there are any bridges in this river, particularly in the woods. No one's sure about that. Ogvai, however, stands on the opposite bank and he begins to walk into the river.
Oh shit. Is he like directly across from us?
No, he's probably about 100 feet up from where you are.
I mean, we're not outrunning him. Greta, like, threads her fingers through Asgear's and just, like, squeezes, and all Father, that this thing will, not maybe will think that they've already gotten out of the water and will pass them by.
Sorry, did you say you were going to leave something here to distract?
No, I said I'm staying put, and I'm
Okay,
just a
okay.
chicken. I'm not going anywhere. I don't know if Asgear's gonna try and get up and hobble away.
What are you going to do, Asgeir? Are you going to stay?
Asgeir will kind of turn over towards Greta, trying to keep as quiet as possible, but in just what could hardly even be described as a whisper, just say, "Go. I already can't make it, not with this leg. If I can hold him off, even for a couple seconds, might give you a head start. At least one of us might make it out."
She shakes her head at you and, like, grips your hand tighter.
And Asgeir will just grit his teeth and nod and wait for what's likely impending doom.
So you can see Ogvai, he like walks out to about a quarter way to the river. It's now up to his chin. He just keeps walking. He doesn't swim. He walks underneath, seemingly. He vanishes from sight.
Lloyd, this is terrifying. This is absolutely terrifying. Oh, fuck, this is what giants should be like in D&D. You should see them and be like, holy shit, this thing is gonna kill me.
So about a minute goes by as you're like squeezing each other's hand tightly. You can just hear like the babbling of the river and like the lapping of the waves against the shore. And then the other side of the river, Ogvai, about 100 feet up from where you are, steps onto the shore. And like an animal, he just like shakes his hair and then his skin, and there's just like this almost like cloud of mist that he shakes off himself. His breathing is so loud. He's like 100 feet away. You can still hear it. And he's like looking around, and you can see that like his eyes are bright, sort of orange, as he like looks around in the darkness. Begins moving forwards, and then stops. He just stands perfectly still.
Greta's holding her breath at this point.
He stands perfectly still for.
Asgeir is.
Go ahead.
Asgeir is just mouthlessly wording something, like not even not even enough that any sound is happening. It just, his mouth is moving, but nothing's coming out in some mantra like chant, as just fear has kind of taken over the conscious part of his mind.
Ogvai stands perfectly still for about 3 minutes, just listening and looking through the woods. And then finally his ear like snaps or twitches, and his head snaps in the direction. Begins walking in your direction.
I don't even know what to do. I'm like petrified. I think Greta would be too. Like just this huge, monstrous thing with these glowing eyes coming towards them. She's absolutely petrified. Can't move. Can't breathe. Just frozen.
Yeah, you can see that like the thick beard and hair is like this fiery orange, and it almost gives off a light. The same as his eyes as he approaches. He's like covered in scars and runic tattoos. Basically from the neck down. This like really tight runic scripture all the way across. So he's about 30 feet away now, and you can like hear the rattle of his breathing. Even you can almost hear the pumping of his heart. And finally, he like looks directly where you are.
Not make me kill you in such a pathetic way.
And at that, realizing that there's not really much to go from here at this point, Asgir would actually haul himself up out of the water that they were trying to hide in, and kind of gripping the half spear, would just, as best as he can, look up towards this creature, and his voice is quivering with fear. But he begins to speak and telling the tales of the great king and conqueror Gunnar, a long descended ancestor. At first, just almost as a whisper, just barely managing to keep fear enough to say it. Begins saying it louder and louder and louder until it's almost a shout in this dead quiet forest. Spear just continuing this chant as he yells.
He looks at you and he like raises an eyebrow, and even that almost makes a noise like a.
Your mortal rulers hold no wonder or fear to me. I lived in Midgard when your kind still threw shit at each other and picked lice from each other's hair.
Greta, taking her cue from Asgir, reaches to her neck, feeling for the Odin necklace, which is gone. And so just puts her hand over her heart and begins her own soft chanting of the Odin's prayers.
Roll initiative.
And so, using my ancestral bloodline feature, if that was enough time for it to gain mechanical effect, then Greta will gain 7 HP from that.
Yep, it works.
Expect the frightening part to to work on this guy, but
And Nico, you'd had the lamb thing, so I had the like one little axe that we'd managed to lift. Or is that broken?
I'm not sure. I just had an arrowhead, and which I used to heal Asger's wound, and then that lamb bone, which I pilfered. I think the only axe we had got broken in the fight, so we only had like half an axe head, and Asger has a broken spear.
There's a couple of like cooking knives that you picked up in that camp.
Yeah. Okay. Greta's got a cooking knife then.
Yeah.
And Greta's holding like a steak knife against a giant, you know.
So you like get ready, and then like as a blur, Ogvai moves incredibly quickly, like more quickly than you could have imagined something that size could move. And he leaps forward. He like pulls an axe from each side of his hip. They look tiny in his hands, but they're like fully sized, enormous weapons. And so he like leaps forward and just like with a huge slash is going to try and slash down at Asgeir. Does a 29 hit you?
Just barely gets me, but yeah, that's 17 over my armor class.
Fuck me dead. Okay. He rolled shit for damage though. So it'll be 14 as the axe comes down, but then it's going to be it's to the head. Oh boy. Just 1 second here. Yeah, so he like leaps forward and this axe like soars through the air, and you can see that it too is covered in runes. It's got like this like golden inlay, various like sort of swirling fire shapes throughout. And he like leaps forward and just the head is severed from your shoulders and it like rolls up into the air. You see it, Greta, as it just like splash into the water. And you see like Asgeir's body stand there, and he's still got like the spear ready, and the body stands there for a second before like falling to its knees, and then like to the side, just like spraying blood. His second attack, he's going to take his foot, and he's going to kick you, Greta. For a 20.
Yep.
So it's going to be 7 damage. I need to make a strength save.
I almost certainly fail that with a natural 1.
Yes. So he like gets his huge bare foot and like stomps on top of you. You're like brought down to the ground. You can feel like this like crunch as like the ribs invariably snap beneath his weight, and he like has his foot on you, and he like towers above you. You just like lets out this like deep breath, and you can smell like sulfur and like sort of like burning wood on his breath. But then it's your turn.
I stab between his toes.
Go for it.
With my little steak knife. It's gonna be 18 to hit.
That misses. So you like try to get the knife between, but like the skin and calluses on his feet are so thick that the knife goes about an inch in, but he doesn't seem to feel it. Just like desperate stab, and he just like looks and raises an eyebrow. Asgeir is very, very dead, and so he then lifts the axe up. But he sees that you have a weapon in your hand, and so before doing that, he's going to reach down with his hand, and he's going to grab your own hand and try and break it so you drop the weapon. So I need you to make an athletics, please.
Oh. Fuck. That is going to be 10.
Okay, so he reaches down with his huge hand. This hand is like the size of your body, and he just like wraps it around your own. And there's like this crunch. All the bones in your hand just like fall apart, and there's like agony runs through you. And he like delicately with 2 fingers like grabs the knife from your hand and flicks it away. And then it's your turn again.
On this shore of the river, Greta's hands scramble around for any sort of rock with an edge, and she's gonna see if she can find something to smash into his foot.
Sure, you can definitely find a rock.
I'm aiming for his pinky toe if I hit. Nope, I don't hit.
Yeah, so I think like you take this rock and you like smash it into the nail of his pinky toe, and there's like maybe like a crack that runs through it, but he doesn't seem to notice or care. He like looks bemused at the situation. You've got no weapon in your hand, so he raises the axe high and he's going to bring it down on your head. Yeah. So, what's your armor class?
I believe it's a 14.
Okay.
I would be shocked if he misses.
He does not. I'm seeing if it's above 10. Okay.
I'm sitting pretty on 21 hit points, so.
Yeah. Okay, so it's going to be 18 damage, and he slices like into your forehead. It's actually more of a cut than a smash, and so it slices a deep cut into your forehead, and blood just begins like pouring all over your face. You basically have to take an action to like move the blood out of your face if you want to be able to see again. And it's your turn.
No. Yeah, Greta doesn't need to be able to see. She can feel where he is. And she's just letting out the low creak of breath. She's not going to be able to draw another one. She can tell just by the weight of his foot on her broken ribs. And just, Odin. And she like hits against his foot, and she's just praying that this little river rock, that her last fight will get her to Valhalla. And she hits the giant's foot again with a rock. That one's a 20 to hit.
That will do it.
A D4, I presume?
Yeah.
1. Plus strength?
Yeah.
5.
Okay. So the rock comes down, and this time, like you hit the same part of the pinky, and it like cracks. You can hear like a, and he like lets out this, but it like rumbles through, and you can like feel it like all the way through your body. This like deep reverberating laughter that almost hurt. It comes to his turn. He drops the axe and he like reaches down with his huge hand and grabs you by the head and lifts you up into the air. And he's going to try and crush your skull. So I'm going to need you to make a athletics, please.
Roll to avoid skull crushing.
Yep.
No, I rolled a 2 on the die. God damn it.
So the last thing that you see then is like this like huge hand come down and lift you, and you're trying to like tense the muscles in your neck so that it doesn't like fall off the rest of your body. And you're like holding onto his arm above, like a tree trunk. And he says, "Your gods cannot save him now. The All-Father does not see." Right. And so the bastards ensure that none leave alive. Their mission complete. So, I hope you guys enjoyed playing in that. I wouldn't say enjoyed is the right word, but hopefully you tolerated being in that. And if you watched, I hope you had a good time watching it. Just thought I'd try it to see what happens if players have literally fucking nothing to go on. What did you guys think?
So good. That's probably the best scene 1 I've ever played in. I enjoyed that so much, and I liked everything mattered because we had nothing, so we had nothing to lose. We just like make the best of it. I found it extremely enjoyable being punished. So
yeah, I mean, I had a same sentiment. It was a ton of fun, and yeah, just with starting a game at 3 hit points with no equipment, where it's like literally you trip and fall on a rock and it could kill you. Like immediate tension of like every single step that we take is life and death is like a really interesting way to play D&D experience much. So I thought it was really cool.
Well, like you said earlier, I think it's interesting to like be a level 5 character, but like when you start the game, there's like one shitlord, but because he's not near death, he's like a real threat to your whole party. You know, like that guy, he was nothing, but he had a weapon, and that meant that he could kill you.
And did.
Yeah. And did, yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, and I like it because I think sometimes in D&D when you get to higher levels, even level 5, you're like, oh, it's a bear. We can take a bear. We're 3 warriors. And we're like, oh, F that. That's a bear.
Yeah, I wanted to put that in specifically for that reason, because a bear will fuck you up, right? But like, it won't fuck a level 5 D&D character up at all.
Not 3 of them, certainly.
Yeah, right. But like, you're walking through the woods and it's a bear, you better fucking leg it, you know? Which I like that as an encounter. Yeah, so I hope you had a good time, and I hope if you watched it, you had a good time. I'm definitely there's stuff I will take from this that I liked a lot. Plus, we got to see Ogvai murder some people, which is my favorite thing to do. Cool. So if you like, subscribe, all that sort of shit. See you later.